Hi, I'm Jean, and like most others my age, climate change is at the forefront of things I care about, unsurprisingly beating any maths homework I had due last week. My passion was never sparked by a single event. In fact, I can never truly nail down when I started caring. I've spent my life growing up surrounded by constant news of polar ice caps melting and the Great Barrier Reef dying and animals losing their homes and bushfires and floods and pollution and this overall catastrophic thing which no one seems to care that much about. As I've grown older, I've learnt about the world's increasing carbon emissions and how climate change actually works. And I've seen mines such as Adani being approved or at least not openly opposed by our politicians. Pacific Islanders literally losing their homes due to flooding. And I can very clearly see the UN report, which has given us a deadline of 12 years to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. I understand how easily this can feel hopeless, but no change has ever come out of giving up. So due to the anger and frustration that the mass inaction of our politicians has given me, I decided to funnel this energy into action and take a lead role in organising with School Strike for Climate. Our first of 2 strikes was in November of last year, in which a remarkable 15,000 students walked out of school to attend rallies across the country, directly ignoring our Prime Minister's orders for us to be less activist. Our most recent strike was just a few weeks ago on March 15th. However, this time around, it was in conjunction with over 100 other countries. Within Australia alone, 150,000 people took the day off from school or work, joining global forces of 1.5 million. Together, as we demanded immediate action from our politicians, we created a totally unprecedented demonstration of youth power. My experience organising these events has been completely life-changing. From speaking at a rally for the first time, to having to figure out how to file a notice of public assembly, and being quoted in dozens of articles along with even making TV appearances. However, I have also learnt that I am not special. School Strike for Climate is just one amongst many youth-led organisations filled with thousands of incredible teenage activists. And through becoming aware of this, I've realised just how much power and influence these movements have, often seemingly more than their adult counterparts. When we can't vote, action is all that we have. In fact, 2018 to now has felt like the year that Gen Z have become sick and tired of the injustices of our world, particularly the climate crisis, and decided to take action. 0 Hour, Sunrise Movement, Fridays for Future, and School Strike for Climate are just a few of many organisations that take our concerns to leaders worldwide. The conversation surrounding climate change has been dominated by scientists for decades now, which, in theory, should be all we need. But it doesn't matter how many reports or studies are published that seem to predict our impending doom. It seems that no one who has the power to change policy seems to be listening. However, when young people are given a voice, we can completely change the conversation. For us, campaigning for climate action is more than a moral responsibility. It is how we are literally fighting for our futures. The younger a person is, the more they will be impacted by climate change and the less of a voice they're given today. We want to reach adulthood and experience the world and environment as all previous generations have. We deserve to live without fearing the increasing presence of bushfires and floods, without having to endure droughts and food shortages. It is so scary to think that unless something is done, myself, all others my age, and all future generations will have to survive the mess created by the greedy today who likely will never live to see the consequences. When young people talk about the climate and how it relates to us, it is personal and it is next to impossible to ignore. Whether at a rally, during an interview, or in an essay, we relate to people's emotional sides and show that this isn't a clinical scientific issue, but that it is a crisis. And our message sticks. Many an adult has approached me and said something along the lines of, "Oh, I was never nearly as informed as you are when I was your age," or, "Wow, I wish I cared this much when I was younger." And every time I explain how Gen Z, our generation, are the first to grow up with the internet at our disposal, how this really does change our awareness of the world. I am certain that if I didn't have access to Google, my knowledge of the climate and its impacts upon the world would be significantly smaller. Even on social media, I've learned a lot about climate change. Whilst Instagram, for example, may be seen as a place of endless selfies and photos of food in the eyes of many adults, that really isn't the experience for myself and many others my age. There are thousands of accounts dedicated to spreading messages of social and climate justice, which only grow larger as online activism becomes more and more popular. As teenagers, we've reached a stage where we're pretty much expected to have political opinions and to be educated, and we're more than prepared to engage. Together, we have an innate understanding of how social media functions and how to create content that other kids will engage with. And this translated to the strike massively growing in size as soon as we began spreading our message online. Along with this, social media and the internet as a whole has opened communications with teen activists both across the country and the world. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and WhatsApp are our tools to both organize. Most planning teams have never had a physical meeting, along with spread our message in the most impactful and effective way that we can. In movements that aren't led by adults, but instead by passionate teenagers, there is total freedom and lack of protocol. Whilst we have had levels of support, there certainly is no guide to creating change in the way that we do. Everyone involved has to be constantly learning and in communication with others as we approach constant uncharted territories. I will admit this can be difficult at points. We've had our fair share of conflict and argument. It ends up with us working in the best way that we can, by finding solutions together and discovering every person's strengths. As students, we spend so much of our time being told how and when to do things, yet we adjust so well to the freedom of our own movements. We decide on the goals we see that we need. We decide on the image we want for ourselves, and we choose how we're going to approach our goals in the most effective way that we see possible. Together, we really do thrive. Whilst we can't vote, we've managed to force our way into the conversation, and our power truly has come from our own making. Our numbers are growing each day, and we're only just getting started. We already know that politicians can't ignore us anymore. And whilst we lack official democratic power, we've been able to make more change than we ever thought possible. Thank you.